The flow of people escaping Ukraine is now a humanitarian crisis, and for those who stay, it could be life-threatening. Joining us now from Geneva is Ravina Shamdasani, the spokesperson for the United Nations Human Rights Office. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Let's start with the 1 million refugees that have fled Ukraine, half of them children. What can the international community do to help the families trapped in the war zone who are unable to flee?
Well, thanks, Linsey. Indeed, it's the numbers have escalated so rapidly that people, countries, neighboring countries are struggling to cope. What we do welcome is the spirit in which these refugees are being welcomed into neighboring countries in such large numbers. We hope that this kind of solidarity and this kind of generosity of spirit and this kind of respect for international human rights law and international refugee law can be extended to all those who are trying to flee without discrimination. There have been some worrying reports at the border of discriminatory treatment of people who are non-Ukrainian nationals. And we do hope we will see an end to that kind of treatment and that this generosity of spirit will be extended to all those who are fleeing conflict.
And I just want to follow up on that. What is being done about the discrimination at the border to eliminate that or at least decrease it?
Well, UN agencies are present. UNHCR is present on the ground in the various countries. Various humanitarian agencies are present as well. And we have been advocating with the authorities directly, and we have been speaking out publicly about the need to ensure that all those who need protection receive it immediately and in a timely fashion.
There have been at least 249 civilians killed in Ukraine, more than 550 injured, and it does not appear that Russian President Vladimir Putin will slow down these attacks. There have been reports about banned weapons like cluster bombs being used. What do you know about that, and just how concerned are you?
No, we have seen reports of cluster bombs being used. We've seen them striking civilian targets, including residential buildings. The use of such wide area impact weapons is very likely to lead to significant numbers of civilian casualties. And we have been urging the authorities to seize the use of these weapons, particularly in populated areas. We are very concerned. I mean, the rhetoric has been rising, and with it, the kinds of attacks that we're seeing, the kinds of weapons that are being used are also getting much more worrying. As the General Assembly requested in its resolution yesterday, and as the Human Rights Council has been discussing today, there's a real need to bring this military attack to a halt.
Does your group advise people who are still inside Ukraine to try and leave, or do you believe it's too dangerous to leave at this point?
We actually still have staff in Ukraine. We are staying, we're delivering. There's a lot of misinformation going around, which is why it's even more important for our UN human rights monitors to remain on the ground, to be able to monitor the situation, to see what's happening to civilians, to carry out these kinds of assessments of the number of civilian casualties that are occurring in increasing numbers over the past few days. I mean, on whether people should stay or flee, that really is a security assessment that they need to do on the ground. What we would urge is that all those who need to flee are afforded the protection that they need, and that all parties to the conflict do ensure that international humanitarian law is respected and civilians and civilian infrastructure are protected.
141 countries in the United Nations Assembly voted to condemn Russia's invasion of Ukraine. How does a vote like this hold Russia accountable?
There's a lot of attempts by the international community to hold Russia accountable for this military attack. The Human Rights Council also in Geneva held an urgent debate today, and they hope to create a commission of inquiry, which is an investigative body that is meant to look into the ongoing human rights violations and potential violations of international humanitarian law that are occurring. We have also seen the imposition of sanctions. Now, on sanctions, what we do have to stress is that it is essential that the sanctions are clearly targeted and that there is no undue impact on the human rights of civilians. That any sanctions that take place are not broad sectoral sanctions. They're carefully assessed, and their implementation and their impact is carefully reviewed.
5 countries voted against the condemnation and 35 abstained. What do you have to say to those countries?
Well, listen, I think there needs to be a concerted call by the international community that the situation is unacceptable. The pummeling of civilians and civilian infrastructure in Ukraine is unacceptable. And the military attack by the Russian Federation needs to be brought to an end immediately.
Do you have a message for the people of Ukraine tonight?
Our message is a message of solidarity. We are grieving with them. We are grieving for all those who are suffering, who have lost loved ones, who have been separated from loved ones, who are being forced to take up arms at this time, forced to take up arms at this time. We are there. We are going to continue to remain there and to monitor the situation, to document the civilian casualties, and to make sure that the voices of the people of Ukraine make it out of Ukraine. We will continue to advocate for them.
Ravina Shamdasani, we thank you so much for your time and joining us tonight.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.